What is going on, Guardians? Ember here with another one for you. Today we're going to take a deep dive into Tommy's Matchbook and the crazy changes that they made to it this season, adding scorch damage so it can synergize with all of our solar builds. This is one of my favorite weapons to use this season, even though we don't really have any solar mods in the artifact. But beyond that, it actually is crazy powerful with the right setup. We're using solar surge mods and everything like that to give it the maximum amount of power possible, and it goes hard. Before we get into it though, don't forget to head down below this video and absolutely obliterate that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to stick around for an original meme at the end of the video. And without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so let's take a peek at what we got going on here. Let's see, Tommy's Matchbook. This is what we're centering everything around, of course. We got a new update this season in Season 21 that now changes the burning damage that Tommy's did in previous seasons to scorch damage. So now it works and synergizes very well with our new subclass scorch verbs that we have. So let's check out this intrinsic trait here. Ignition trigger. Sustained fire with this weapon overheats it, increasing damage but burning the user. And then we also have heat sink. Overheat damage is reduced while not aiming down sights. While overheated, sustained fire scorches your target. So we have that verb in there now, so it works with the rest of our subclass. And what better exotic armor piece to pair with this than Loreley Splendor? Let's see what this one does, and it is absolutely the most ideal exotic to pair with it for sure. We have Cauterizing Flame. When you are critically wounded with full class ability energy, or when you cast a barricade, create a sunspot at your location that has improved restoration effects. So normally a sunspot will heal you while you're inside of it, but this is going to help it to heal you even more, and so we're going to be well out healing any of the damage done by enemies and by Tommy's indirectly while firing it, just going through it and like normal. Let's check out our subclass here. We're using the Rally Barricade because we want to up our reload speed specifically. The worst part about using the Tommy's while having our sunspot up is having to reload it in the middle while we're using it and going through all the enemies and having to deal with all the ads around us. We want to reduce that time as much as possible. Adding a little bit of reload speed just from the Rally Barricade there is essential. So I know that Loreley will spawn a sunspot if you go into critical health, but as much as possible I would recommend to stay away from that and to actually use your Rally Barricade here when you see that you might be running low on your sunspot, because when you have one going up, we're not necessarily always super informed on where our sunspot is in its general lifespan, and so you'll see in the background here we will pop a barricade, get our sunspot, and have another barricade up in seconds. It's not 38 seconds like it says here. I'm having these come back in 10 seconds or less. It's actually very powerful to be able to chain those back and forth, and you can kind of create a hip high wall around you that will help you to not take a lot of that damage. We also have Strafe Lift, Throwing Hammer, of course, and then Thermite Grenade, so we can scorch a whole bunch of enemies. We want to scorch as many of them as possible with this grenade, hit them with the Tommy's, create ignitions. Our aspects is Roaring Flames. We have Final Blows with solar abilities or ignitions. Increase the damage of your solar abilities. Stacks 3 times. We have Soul Invictus. Solar ability Final Blows. Hammer of Soul Impacts. And defeating scorched targets creates sunspots. Your abilities regenerate faster and your super drains more slowly while standing in a sunspot. Sunspots apply scorch and deal damage to targets inside. Entering a sunspot applies restoration. So that's where we're getting the healing on the sunspot, and the sunspot itself will also apply scorch to the targets that walk in and damage them, and you're going to be getting swarmed by them. Trust me, you'll have ads all around you, and the fact that the sunspots are going to deal damage definitely helps out there. Our fragments here are Ember of Ashes. You apply more scorch stacks to targets. Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets, so that's going to work while we're using Tommy's, any of our abilities, and if anything walks inside of our sunspots. Ember of Tempering, solar weapon final blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for a short duration, stacks 3 times. While Ember of Tempering is active, your weapons have increased airborne effectiveness, and your solar weapon final blows create a fire sprite. Fire sprites are very important because they're going to give us grenade energy when we pick them up, and we want to, keep those grenades going as much as possible because they're a good key part to this build here. We're scorching a whole bunch of enemies with this thermite grenade, sending that line of fire out in front of us. And lastly, we have Ember of Wonder. Rapidly defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions generates an orb of power. So pretty much any time that we're going to create an ignition, it's going to create an orb of power for us as well. And we're going to talk about what we have for our armor charge here in just a second. And that's why it really feeds so well into this. That's solar fragment right there. And the 10 resilience is nothing to bat an eyelash over anyway. Let's talk about some of our mods here. Go over it in the screen right here because there is kind of a lot that we're working with. First off, we all are using bolstering detonation and focusing strike. So these are giving us class ability energy when we cause damage with our melee attacks or our grenades. And so having the throwing hammer that you can pick up and throw again, that's definitely helping add to our general ability just to regen our barricades so we can have as many of those sunspots on demand as possible. And that definitely applies to bolstering detonation as well. And I did throw a font of focus on here, so while we do have our armor charge, we're going to be recharging our grenade more quickly as well. And then we are running 3 solar weapon surges. You will see we're dealing 5,000 damage per crit to all of the adds around us, and that is a ton. Next, I have a couple of mods here for our barricade cast, and this is why it's important to actually cast your barricade and not let the Loreley proc in your critical health as much as possible. At least it will happen, it totally will happen, but if you can pay attention to it and actually pop your barricade instead of having Loreley proc the sunspot anyway, it will help you out in the long run because we're using time dilation, so we have longer armor charge, powerful attraction, automatically collects nearby orbs of power when you activate your class ability. So we're going to pull those in. That's going to help to proc our solar weapon surge mods right here. And then we also have our Reaper mods. After using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power, and so that kind of feeds right back into itself. We use our class ability, it grabs all the orbs of power around us, giving us armor charge, and then we're using our solar weapon surges to add extra damage to Tommy's. Getting kills will give us orbs, and you can see the loop. It's very powerful and super fun to use. Let's go ahead and get into some of this gameplay and just check out how strong it is. I love it. Alright, so let's talk about Tommy's first really quick. It takes 20 shots to activate the exotic perk, and once you do that, it deals double damage for the next 80 shots. So long as you don't stop firing, you can keep that damage boost chained as long as possible. So I would recommend, if you don't have to stop shooting, just don't. You'll miss a couple of shots here and there, but that's totally fine because as long as you're not missing 20 shots, the trade-off is perfectly fine. And next, we are adding our 22% extra damage with our solar empowering mods for our legs. That's giving us a huge bump to our damage and increasing the viability here. And remember to put down as many barricades as you can. The second you get it, you see, I just put a barricade down and I already have it back. That is less than 5 seconds. We're getting our barricades back almost instantaneously and chaining those sunspots all over the place so we can travel basically anywhere on the battlefield that we would like with our huge health regen to complement our massive, massive damage buffs. And that is why I believe that Loreley Splendor is the absolute best exotic to pair with Tommy's Matchbook. You just really cannot come close to it with the solar synergies that you're having. All of the explosions, all of the bonus damage. We're doing 5,000 damage per crit to all of the adds when we do get a crit shot on them and it's fully spawned up. They just can't handle it. You just chew through them faster than they can even spawn in. And it is so important to keep as much armor charge going as possible, and that is why I really want to harp on pop those barricades when you have them. You see, I'm not doing a great job right here in the background. I'm kind of just running around and shooting my shotgun around. I should have been popping barricades there so that I can keep my armor charge up and going. You know, I do have kind of a lot in this scenario here, and this is where we're really doing it right. We're chaining our barricades back and forth over and over again, putting yourself kind of in a corner where enemies can't really get to you so much, and you just can chew through waves of ads with it. It is absolutely insane the amount of damage we're putting out on these ads. They cannot withstand. And Guardians, that's going to have to be all for me for now. Let's go ahead and throw that meme up on the screen. Go ahead in the comment section below and let me know how you feel about Tommy's Matchbook. I personally think it is one of the best guns to be using right now in Season 21 and beyond. I look forward to the seasons coming that will be adding a nice few solar mods to the artifact. I mean, the artifacts have been so good. And Guardians, if you did enjoy this video, I always appreciate a like and a sub. But until next time, be without form, swift as lightning.